Hello and welcome to this election special on the Southern View. We're back to you like last evening from outside the Mysuru Palace. The only difference, our focus today is on the royal battle here in Mysuru Lok Sabha constituency. The King of Mysore is the BJP's candidate versus what's been portrayed as the commoner taking on the royal, who's the Congress candidate M. Lakshman. Yaduveer Krishnadatta Wadiyar, the Mysore Maharaja, is sweating it out on the campaign trail as we caught up with him earlier in the day. We also caught up with the Congress candidate as our journeys across South India, which travelled through Tamil Nadu, Kerala, came on to Ooty, and now finally last evening in Mysore has brought us focus on the Mysore Lok Sabha constituency. Well, it's a fascinating contest and a lot of grassroots, intricate political equations at play here in the Mysuru Lok Sabha seat. Remember, it's a prestige battle as well for Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, whose son has heavily invested himself in the campaign here for the Congress candidate. But first, let's listen in to Yaduveer Krishnadatta Wadiyar, the Mysore Maharaja, who's out in the villages campaigning for votes here at the Mysuru Lok Sabha constituency. I caught up with him on the campaign trail this afternoon. We're on the royal campaign vehicle of Yaduveer Krishnadatta Wadiyar, the King of Mysore, sweating it out in the heat, seeking votes. How does the king seek votes? Is this a reality check for you?
Well, in modern India, such titles, as you know, were abolished a long time ago. We were born in the democratic system, grew up in such a system, and since my grandfather merged the Kingdom of Mysore with the Dominion of India, and then finally, of course, first acceded and then merged it into the Republic of India, we've always wanted to strengthen the institution of democracy and further its lofty ideals. And I think us standing in the elections is a further strengthening of that same institution.
So as you say that, I just want to know, what's the difference between being, in the royal circle vis-a-vis being a candidate here and contesting an election? I mean, what is perhaps the biggest learning that you've got so far before I get to serious political questions?
Well, I mean, whatever the royal imagery or whatever you might have seen is contained within, of course, the tradition that is related to the palace. Beyond that, of course, there are just commitments that we have in public life, which we enjoy as common citizens. I think that's title enough, is Citizen of India for us all. It's wonderful to be part of the growth that the country has seen in the last 10 years. And even internationally now, thanks to the wonderful work the Prime Minister is doing, there's a lot of weight to being a citizen of India now. So it has been a transitional in the sense, obviously, from a common citizen enjoying the privacy of being a common citizen now to public life. That has been the only transition that perhaps there is some getting used to. Though I had experience of semi-public life, now completely being involved, obviously there is going to be a lot more questions raised and a lot more criticisms put into place, a lot of inevitably hate coming in, etc. So, well, we welcome all of that. I think it strengthens the person furthermore, and certainly there are valid criticisms which you should take in and should use to evolve further, but the invalid ones are better kept aside.
As you make that point, in a sharply polarized environment, there are center versus state issues. There are sharp exchanges that happen. You have good relations on all sides. How do you balance this out in this atmosphere? Do you fear that your campaign may put you on one side of the divide?
Well, I mean, certainly there is the threat of that happening, but I think we must make a distinction between criticizing the ideology or the way that someone in the opposition is doing their developmental works or perhaps their own beliefs, and personal criticisms as well. I think those are best stayed away from, the personal criticism. The rest of it, it's an open market. I think if we feel that something they are doing is wrong or perhaps not in the best interest of the people of this country or this state, then we are very valid in criticizing it.
It's an important point that you make there. Keep away from personal criticisms is what you're saying. This is seen as a prestige battle for Siddaramaiah as well, who's the chief minister. Mysore constituency is considered as tough. Though some say that the Congress may not have fielded a very strong candidate here. How do you see this election panning out for yourself?
Well, I see us winning, obviously on result day to be on the winning side. Obviously, they'll have their own strategy and their own narrative which they'll want to drive home, and certainly we know the chief minister and another chief minister have come from this very Mysore area. It's a matter of pride that Mysorean has become a chief minister, but of course within the political sphere and certainly the political battlefield, we are obviously opponents. We will focus on our strategy and our narrative and ensure that we are hitting our targets and conveying our message to the people as for our vision for development, as well as what we mean to do in terms of ensuring that the heritage and the culture of this place as well is preserved.
Is there a sense of nervousness?
No, certainly not at all. You can't have such feelings when you're in this field. I think those are best left behind, and you have to fortify yourself with good perhaps philosophy or whatever your cup of tea is before coming in here.
The only criticism that I've heard so far, or the campaign of the Congress, is that this is a Maharaja who's lived in the palace. What does he know about the people?
Well, my ancestors lived in the palace as well, and they created what everyone knows to be was modern Mysore as it became famous world over. It was a model state in many ways and had many developmental works alongside preserving heritage and giving people new policy at the time, which was very modern. In fact, even reservation was brought in the Mysore state some 40 years before independence itself. So there were very many unique things. I think our background or the place where we were brought up is less important as to our aptitude or ability for the job. Furthermore, I think as long as you have a concern for people's welfare, that is the furthermost thing. And as for learning, yes, certainly perhaps you'll be in the deeper end in certain matters, but I'm a fast learner and I swim well as well in the deep end.
The decision to field you here had led to some heartburn with the sitting MP Pratap Simha. Have you reached out to him? Have you spoken to him about this?
Well, he called as soon as the notice came and assured us of his support and whatever help me require. For my part as well, I've told him that all his works will continue, and certainly the foundation for what should be future development within our district has been certainly laid by him. There's no doubt about that. And certainly his name will always be remembered by everyone in Mysore Kodagu as well for laying that foundation.
Was this decision a spontaneous one, or did it require convincing to make you contest these elections?
Well, certainly, obviously, you require some convincing from both sides. You need to convince yourself and your family, then afterwards your family members, etc. Well, nothing out of the ordinary there. Certainly, it's a very decision that weighs on much more than yourself. So you need to take those concerned around you, family, friends, etc., into confidence before you do such a thing. So certainly, those things had its own process and went through all of those, what can you say, small struggles that they do, but nothing out of the ordinary again.
Okay, you've been on the campaign now for what, about 20-25 days on this, almost a month now. What's been the most fascinating moment for you? Perhaps the biggest revelation, the most enjoyable moment that you had? I saw you having idli vada nicely on the camp, for your roadside breakfast. But what's perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the last 30 days on the campaign trail?
Well, I think the diversity of opinions. I mean, you always knew we are a very diverse country, but I think from village to village there is a different culture, there's different traditions, and there's different expectations, there's different aspirations as well. Certainly that while we knew it was there, I don't think the scale of it wasn't as apparent as it was. It's been very enjoyable to learn about it and see how we can be of help to them as well. And certainly the welcome we've been receiving has been overwhelming, to say the least, and I'm glad that they are welcoming us in such a way, and the work that my ancestors have done and then the party has done via the Prime Minister has given us this much goodwill to ensure that we are also victorious in this endeavor.
Okay, making only political statements here, but thanks very much, Yaduveer Krishnadatta Wadiyar there, soft-spoken but firm on his campaign trail here in Mysore Lok Sabha constituency.
ಮಾಡಿದ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ